Welcome to Americana Archives. Today's headline is The Founder of Dawson. The subheadline says, he tells of the richness of the mines of the North. It says, Joseph Ledoux, the richest man that ever came from Alaska, says the news, was in Denver last Wednesday en route to meet friends in Schuyler, New York. The largest nugget I saw, he said, weighed 40 ounces and was worth $680, or $17 an ounce. No imagination can conceive of the wealth in the Klondike and neighboring districts, said the lucky miner as he pulled a buckskin bag from one of his pockets and proceeded to edify his listeners with a magnificent display from one of his 13 placer claims. That is a sample of the kind of stuff we get when at the close of the day's work, we wash out a bucket full of dirt in order to pay the men their wages. The usual method is to pay for the day's operation out of a single bucket full of dirt. The dirt is washed down in the cabin, and the wages, which are $15 a day, are weighed on the scales. Gold nuggets and gold dust is all the money we know anything about in the diggings. Every man carries a pair of scales, and $10 in dust is a day's salary for a common laborer. A miner who would be detailed to cut wood receives the same wages as though he is in the bottom of the pit. After the listeners regained their composure, Mr. Ledoux proceeded. I have been in Alaska off and on for 15 years. Part of the time I was engaged in mining, and part of the time as a merchant. I know a good deal about the country, its climate and its peculiarities, and the chances which are offered to energetic men. My advice is for outsiders to stay away till next spring, and then will be the time to make a rush for a fortune. The excitement next summer will be much greater than it is today, and the difficulty in procuring miners will be much greater than at the present time. I would not be surprised if they will be paying $25 a day for good miners, for everybody will be wild over prospecting, and the men now at work on the placers will go prospecting. The day before I left the camp, there were 100 claims staked out on the banks of the river. Somebody went up on the bank and panned a pan of loose gravel at the surface. He found that it carried $2.50 in gold, and the camp went wild. On the high ground, a man is allowed to stake out a claim 500 feet square, and a man can stake only one claim in the same district. In the valleys, the claim is 500 feet up and down the stream, and it extends sideways to the banks, even if they are 10 miles apart. That is the law, and as the district is 70 miles inside the line of the Canadian possessions, the man who stakes a claim is protected by the best mining laws in the world. I never knew a mining claim to be jumped in Canada, and the protection of the government commences from the moment the stakes are driven. In order to hold a placer, a man must do 3 months continuous development work. Then he is given a patent, and that is all there is about it. Mr. Ledoux showed the most perfect familiarity with the practice and laws of the country, and he patiently answered every inquiry, although he was almost hoarse from the constant exertion, since landing in San Francisco in company with a party of 26, which created such a furor throughout the country. He filed upon the town site of Dawson, the only town of any importance in the gold regions, and lots are already selling for sums as high as $5,000. My opinion is that Australia, California, and South Africa, said Mr. Ledoux, are not to be compared with the new gold fields of the north. There has been exposed, if it were on one stream, at least 30 miles of placer, and the higher ground has only been tested in one place. Of course, we have had no opportunity of finding out anything about the lodes. The lodes are there, and when it comes to lode mining, 100 years will not exhaust them. The character of the finds is proof that the gold has not traveled far, and I believe it dropped down from the banks of the stream in the course of disintegration. The seams from which such tremendously rich deposits come must be immense and must be of almost fabulous wealth. If any man persists in attempting to penetrate the gold district this fall, said Mr. Ledoux, I would advise him to take with him 8 months' provisions. He will need $400 or $500, and he had better spend his money for supplies, for money is no good in the interior of the country. My advice would be for him to go to Juneau, cross over the divide to the Lewis River, a distance of 30 miles. There he will be able to buy a boat, and in company with 1 or 2 companions, he ought to be able to make the journey to the gold region in a month. I knew one party which made the trip in 14 days, but that was a record breaker, and I would not advise newcomers to try it. 30 days is safer and better. The journey is a distance of 470 miles over the river and through numerous lakes and rapids. Boats are flat-bottom and can be had for $75 apiece. Each boat will carry 3 men and the necessary provisions. It costs a man about $1 a day for board in the mines, if he cooks for himself, and that is what everybody is doing. Much of the mining is done on the shares. A man is given, say, 100 feet across the claim as a lay, and he is required to pay 50% for the privilege. Mining is carried forward through the aid of fires, which are built every night at the bottom of the hole in the frozen ground. At daylight, the ground is thawed, and it's raised to the surface during the day and piled up to be thawed out by the sun the next spring. The greatest distance to bedrock is 25 to 26 feet. When a hole is down nearly to the bedrock, the ground grows very rich, and the last 6 miles above the rock is usually hundreds of dollars to the pan. The bedrock in many of the claims is filled with cracks, which are very rich with the metal, and usually 3 or 4 feet of this rock is brought to the surface. Mr. Ledoux says he left the gold fields June 23rd and came down the Yukon River, thence by steamer to San Francisco. The distance down the river is 1,700 miles. He says it requires no knowledge of mining to operate in the mines, and that there are 4,000 people in the district. The shortest day in the year, according to Mr. Ledoux, is 3 hours, and miners are enabled to work 7 hours on account of the long twilight. Mr. Ledoux has made 3 trips through the district in which the discovery was made, and says it's one of the healthiest spots in the world. The only inconvenience is the vast swarms of mosquitoes which fill the air in summertime. If a man must go to the goldfields this year, remarked Mr. Ledoux, he should leave this country no later than the 20th of August. The river is frozen over in the latter part of October or by the 1st of November, and the traveling is then dangerous. Placer work will be in progress for 20 years, and there will be no lowering of wages for a long time. This story came from the great state of Utah, being reported in the Ogden Standard of July 23rd, 1897. Thank you for joining us today. If you want to continue to uncover all of America's lost and forgotten history, then remember before you leave to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and remember to like and comment below. And we will see you next time on Americana Archives.